I was asked that a lot last week. Not only was it my first Crankworx, but my first time in Whistler. Some people found this surprising, but despite dabbling in forex in the past, it is only been the last couple of years in which mountain bikes have really captured my imagination. Before that, I was always a BMX rider first and foremost, both of racing and trails. Whistler definitely started to appear on my radar, and Crankworx also started to linger on my horizon as something I should experience at least once. It was only a month before Crankworx was due to begin, when GT asked if I would like to go. They must have read my mind. I met up with my UK friends, Suzanne and Ryan, who are in their second season in Whistler. Like me, Suzanne loves to ride flow and jumps, so she took me straight to God Merchant. We had both signed up for LDH, so Sue showed me the way down a line too. It was cool to finally ride the trails I'd seen and heard so much about. The line was rougher than I was expecting, but I guess 2 months with no rain will do that. I bumped into another UK friend of mine, Joe, within a few hours of arriving. He was also racing LDH, but was missing a drivetrain from his bike. He was not going to let that stand in his way though. It just made for an interesting start technique. All I was missing was a ride for credible hits, so I headed that way to have a look, and hoped I'd stumble across someone I could follow. I jumped the first 2 on my own to get my eye in, but did not fancy guessing the speed for the bigger sets. It seemed quite hard to judge when you've barely seen anyone ride them, and the consequences of getting it wrong with no one around were not appealing. I was in luck though, as I pushed back up and found a Euro train coming through. They were more than happy for me to follow, so I jumped in behind them. The speed was a lot slower than imagined, but as I hit the third set it seemed just perfect. There was a bit of a headwind and the big set lip looked like a wall in front of me. I felt clueless as to how far away the landing was going to be. Still, this might be my only chance, so I hit it anyway. I rode it a bit conservatively and came up a little short, but I survived. The events started to kick off. First up for me was the LDH. I've only ever done a handful of DH races in my life, but they've all been pretty short. The LDH might be a slow track, but trying to ride flat out for 4 minutes is pretty alien to me. I finished up 16th. I will take that. With my BMX experience, I was obviously quite keen for the prep track event. I had planned to borrow a GG load bundle from the team, but the shipment of bikes had been held up. Luckily, Sam, the mechanic, lent me his own personal load bundle just in time for first practice. It took a little getting used to different geometry to my GT rackets and much wider bars, but he is British, so at least the rear brake was on the affiliate. I reckon I must have turned the cranks at least 5 times during first practice. Forgetting I had no chain, I had a decent qualifying run which put me in 6th place and qualified for the finals later that evening. The main reason I wanted to hit capital was so I could take part in the week off. When I was growing up racing BMX, I felt like the only girl who jumped everything I could because it was fun. I even entered the jumping competitions with the boys. The other girls only ever seemed interested in jumping if it could help them win. To see so many women signing up for an event on a set of huge jumps, sending it and having a blast was so awesome. I totally wanted to be involved. I can whip my boss jump bike pretty good down at the trails, but my technique of throwing the balls around does not really work so well on a downhill bike. I did give it a go though. I was not too bothered about the competition side of things anyway. The crew had worked on the line since the other day, and it was riding like a dream, despite the wind being just as bad, if not worse. As I was pushing back up, the dad, who was watching with his daughter, stopped me to say how stoked they were on my riding. It is a good feeling to have inspired someone else. All the women who were out there shredding are inspirational, and an important part of the progression of women is mountain biking. I cannot wait to see how many women will be sending it in the week off in 5 years' time. A bit tired from out pushing up. It was back to the pump track for the finals. A good crowd was starting to build as the sun dipped below the mountains. Sixth in qualifying meant the first round would be tough. Drawn against the third-place qualifier, I did mistake it in practice, so when it came to racing I was not feeling as fast as I had, just trying to make sure I got the line right. After the second round, I thought I was out, but my opponent had made the same mistake I had in practice, missing a gate and therefore being disqualified. I felt lucky, but that is part of the game, I guess. I may have been given a second chance, but it was a slim one as I was facing the queen of Crankworx, Jill in the semi-final. I kept up for the first half of the track, but Jill hit the turbo button on the rollers and smoked me to the finish. The lady at the finish asked how to pronounce my name. Gough, I said. But I'm not worried. You are not the only one to get it wrong. Gough has been my European race name for years. One last race, a chance at a bronze medal. I was up against the fifth qualifier, Jody Scott, who had knocked out the fourth fastest qualifier, so we were both there against the odds. We both come from a BMX background. We are both at our first Crankworx, and both have a love for jumping and just having fun on our bikes. The only difference is 20 years between us. It was pretty close racing, but I was getting into the flow of things now, and just managed to snatch the bronze medal winning both races. I was miles from the UK, but the congratulations and high fives on Team JT, Sunbrew, my friend Joe, and all the kids in the crowd made me feel right at home. A camera appears in my face and the presenter asks, "Will we see you at Crankworx next year?" Thanks to all at GT UK and USA for making it happen, as well as Joe, Sus and Ryan for showing me around. It was a blast.